And I feel like any sound, if it's like something you hear regularly, you just kind of get used to it. Like I remember when I first moved to my dorm in Chicago, like I could hear the L train and I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to sleep. You know, and then like after a month, I'm just like, oh, I kind of like the sound of the L, like lulling me to sleep as it grinds and sparks and lights up my room. It just, you just get used to it, you know?
That'd be cool.
It kind of was. It kind of was. Now I lived on the 8th floor, so maybe if I lived on like the 2nd or 3rd floor, that might have been a different story. I might have been like, fuck this shit. Because like there's some, like when you're riding on the L, they're like on the brown line or something, or the red line. I mean, there's some spots where you're riding on the tracks and you're 2 to 3 feet from the windows of people's apartments. It's like, how do these people live their lives?
That was Lauren's apartment when like we first met, because she lived in Wrigleyville, and like
that's exactly the area I'm thinking
cut
of.
Straight. It was right behind her place, and like you just had to stop talking as like every time that the train just went by.
Yeah, and it's like they go
amazing.
by, and they go by regularly. I mean, it is like, you know, there's no way you're recording a podcast in one of those apartments. I'll
It's
tell
like
you
Blues
that.
Brothers. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah,
I mean, it's serious.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like UHF. Yeah, like working next to the karate studio or whatever it is. Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli, and I'm here tonight with John Hines.
Hey there.
And Randall Nolery.
Hey, folks.
And we are back as always to talk about some video games. I know last week I was kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel for stuff to play, but I've been getting a little bit back on the horse again and finding some games, you know, digging in a little bit more. I don't know about you guys, but I've been a little bit more scattershot gaming lately.
Same boat with
just
me.
kind of picking some things up
I'll
here
be
and
talking
there.
a bit about that, just kind of flipping around a bit until I landed somewhere.
Okay, nice. Well, yeah, I guess I'll get us started off here with some of that stuff that I've been doing. Although I'll start off with one thing that I talked about last week to just kind of wrap things up with Cave Story, which I gushed about last week, and I will pretty much just continue to gush about that game. I think what I said last time was where I left off was I hit that like bug in the game where like, you know, I had the little bug on Switch where I had to kind of reset the system, and it thankfully didn't have to like start back over from scratch. Just had to power down the system fully to get it to reread my save data and get past the opening boot screen. So I guess if anybody runs into that same glitch on Switch, just like, you know, power down the system all the way to get it to read. But yeah, I ended up playing all the way through almost to the end. I'm on the final boss, and that's the only gripe that I will level at this game is that the final like kind of boss rush, I feel like it's like going a little too retro, and I know there are potentially multiple endings to this game, so I don't know if there are, you know, potentially different ways that this shakes out in the final sequence, but the way that I recall it playing out and then playing it again here, I must have done a similar, you know, sequence of events through the playthrough. And there's just like it's kind of like a little mini boss rush where there's like essentially 3 bosses you have to plow through at the end of the game. All with no, like there is right before the first of the 3 bosses, you can like if you climb up and scale up this kind of little secret hidden area. But if you've played the game, you clearly can see like, oh, I think I can climb up these little like, you know, ledges that are sticking out the side here if I have my blaster powered up all the way, or if I have the jetpack equipped. So you can kind of fly up here, power up a lot of your weapons all the way up to, you know, full strength and you know, max out your health and everything like that. But at the end of, you know, after that, you do have to get through all 3 of these bosses without any means of refilling your health in any way, other than I think some of the bosses do throw like some minion enemies out there that you can shoot and will occasionally drop like a heart or 2 here and there.
That checks out.
But not enough to where you can like, you know, rely on that. Or like, for example, like the game that I beat before this, Record of Lodoss War, Deedlit and Wonder Labyrinth, like you could kind of juggle between your 2 polarities and like refill your health if you were able to, you know, play strategically enough. Where this is like, no, you just have to memorize the patterns and, you know, end up beating all 3 of these bosses in a row without taking too much damage. And part of the problem is every time you take damage, your all of your weapons start leveling down. So if you just take, if you're not juggling your weapons enough to make sure your main weapon that you like using or that you want to use for this particular phase of the boss is not downgraded, you can just get yourself into a little bit of a pickle. And then I'm getting into that frustration loop where, like I said, I didn't fully polish this off, although I do fully intend to. But I'm in that frustration loop where, like, once you lose like enough health on the first boss, you're just like, oh, what's the point of even trying? So let me just start over. And then you do it enough times, you just start, getting kind of sick of rinse and repeat and not, making the same dumb mistake again and again or whatever. So I decided to like put it down for a little bit and say, oh, all right, I'll come back to this in a minute. I just gotta, sometimes just walk away from a game for a little bit and, come back to it and it all just clicks. Usually more so with puzzle stuff, but sometimes with action as well. Just like, let me take a step back. But needless to say, the whole rest of the game from where I did leave off on my save file, it was only maybe another hour or so left of the game. But really having an absolute blast with that game and can't recommend it enough. I even saw I ended up going down a little bit of a rabbit hole, just looking up stuff about Cave Story. And like a bunch of people online on just random comments and stuff were just like, man, if this game would have came out around the time that like Undertale or something did, like this game would have that same kind of, cult following, even though it still does have its own following, in its own right. But I feel like it would be on a whole nother level. I get where they were coming from with that, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like this game and Caro Blaster just kind of fly under the radar, even though there's still these like big time beloved indie games, especially Cave Story.
Cave Story just came a little too early compared to most of that kind of indie push that happened, it felt like.
Yeah, totally. And then maybe due to Aggelos being the ones that kind of landed on having the rights to it, that may have sealed its fate as remaining something that's just like this like little indie gem. But I kind of love it for that,
Oh yeah.
In one way. And then it gave us Caro Blaster with like, the way that all shook out with Aggelos. Best I can tell.
Play Caro Blaster.
Same.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Oh man. It might even be better than Cave Story. Like it's so good. And I take that with a grain of salt. Both games are just equally amazing and fantastic. I really think this developer is just making some masterpieces here. And I hope they end up doing something else if that's what they want to do. Yeah. Because I would love to see another game from them. I know they are doing the pixel artwork for some upcoming game that we talked about last time. But I had some long-winded name that I can't recall the name of off the top of my head. But even just their character design and these big chunky retro pixels, but with it, with a modern, I don't know, edge or personality to it. I don't know. I just really love what they do.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
But then kind of spinning off of that, I've been on this like little Metroidvania kick, I guess, lately. And this is a game that I think I've mentioned either in passing to you guys before or possibly on the podcast or save it for the cast episode. But the game's called Aggelos. It's Aggelos.
Yep.
So I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But this is a game that I was telling the guys right before we jumped on here, very much inspired by the Wonder Boy games or like the Monster Boy games, if you're familiar with those. I think this developer, if I'm not mistaken, I'm drawing a blank, but it's like their name is like Wonder Boy Ricky or something like that is like the developer
Wonder Boy
name.
Bobby in Storybird Games, looks like.
There you go. Yeah. Wonder Boy Bobby. And yeah, it's just very much reminiscent of that. And when you're playing this one, it feels like it's very much inspired by, in particular, the Dragon's Trap.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, Monster Boy 3?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. And yeah, it just feels like, in particular, the one that I'm familiar with is the one from the the Master System, which I played via the Virtual Console, if I'm not mistaken, back in the day. Am I thinking of the right game?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm drawing a blank here, mixing them up, because I know this series is very convoluted with both its naming convention and with like the re-releases that they've done with like, I think even one of them, I think this is Monster Boy 4 or Monster World 4.
Right, the Monster
I'm
World.
getting all mixed up.
Yes.
But there's like the Dynastic Hero, that's like the TurboGrafx CD version of that game. So if you're like unaware, you'd have no clue that it's part of that series.
Yes, which is also a good version of that.
Yeah, a great version.
Yes.
I really like that. It's actually the game that kind of got me into the series, that and Monster World 4 on the actual like Sega Genesis
version. Which we didn't
both
get
are just fantastic
in America for some reason.
Yeah, definitely a shame.
Yeah.
But both fantastic games.
Amazing.
But yeah, this game is just like I was saying, I'm kind of in the mood for these like little Metroidvanias, and this one seems like it's kind of, on that indie scale. I'm not expecting any kind of 20, 30 hour kind of adventure. And I'm kind of ripping through it. It seems like in the opening bits, it sounds like, oh, you got to get these 4 gems from these 4 temples. And I've only played maybe an hour, if that. And I've already got one of the gems from one of the temples.
Awesome.
Really having a blast. Like, it's pretty straightforward. It's just a hack and slash, platformer with some light puzzle elements. Like, there is some, Metroidvania exploration. It's kind of cool. Like, there's like these little glowing orbs that are essentially just like a projectile up until a certain point in the game where I'm thinking, okay, you just got to avoid these. And then I got this like new power up that shoots kind of like, think about it like the axes in like Castlevania, like you hold down up and the attack button or whatever, and it kind of shoots like this big arcing shot. So you get this ability where you can shoot this, I forget what it's called, but it's some kind of essence of earth or whatever of that's the temple I went to. I don't know if that's because I have that element or if this is just my ability, by default for the rest of the game. But I'm throwing this arc, and then if it hits those little like glowing projectiles, it turns them into a platform. So now it's like throwing in these little puzzle platforming, because those things will be moving a little bit side to side or in like a circular pattern. So you got to get it to stop, right at the right spot. So it can get a little bit tricky because you can only shoot 3 of those projectiles before the only way to recharge them is by attacking enemies. You don't have to kill them per se, but every attack, every individual hit on an enemy will give you one more, fill up the tick on that meter. Again, only having played an hour, I don't know if I'm going to be able to upgrade that to do more than 3 at a time eventually. But I've gotten the ability. It seems like I'm probably going to get a double jump, but haven't gotten that yet. But I kind of have like the, Hollow Knight style where you can do like the downward slash and then like bounce off of an enemy's head or a spike or something like that to go over a gap. So I have that ability now. Or in some cases, there might just be like a floor that's like a breakable, tile that you can essentially just do a ground pound through. The only gripe I have with this game so far, other than the fact that when I try to record any capture footage for it, like the audio's all glitching out on me for whatever reason. Like every time I transition between rooms, the audio just gets all out of sync. And I've never had that issue on any other game. So I don't know what in particular with like this software is causing that. Cause I'm playing it on the Nintendo Switch, hooked up to an external capture card. Like I really don't see, I'm running it through the same HDMI cable that I'm hearing the sound through the speakers on and through my headphones, and it all sounds fine. So I'm not sure what's causing that issue there, but that's not the gripe I have at all, because I do like the music. It's very much just like an 8-bit, inspired pixel art adventure.
Nice.
But the map is my main gripe on this game, because it's like there is no... Like, they keep telling you to reference the map. Like, oh, if you get lost, just check your map. And then you pause and you look at the map. And again, I feel like almost every 2D Metroidvania game has the same kind of map. This game just has like a painting of like, it's not quite a top-down map, but it's like, picture like a painting, like a stylized top-down map that has like, oh, here's the castle and here's this and that.
Yeah. And
then it'll just show your character's head in the region that you might be in, but there's like no
that's not very helpful
correlation between, other than, I'm assuming that the things like if they're off to the right or to the east of where you're at, like if you head to the right, you're going to eventually get in that, at least be heading in the right direction. But it is not helpful at all. It'll be like, oh yeah, go under the forest into the caves and you'll find a door there. And I'm like, great, that I'm in a castle right now. How the hell do I get there from here? And you have no idea what's connected, and it's a little bit frustrating, but at least to get to this first temple, like it seemed like it was almost like a little branching leg off of like the main castle, like hub, if you will. Cause you can go back to like the castle and like ask this mage, like, where should I go next? And get like a little hint or whatever. So it seems like that's kind of your hub area to go back to, buy some items, talk to this guy, get some tip to head in the right direction. And then, yeah, I was able to at least kind of memorize, okay, I needed to get back down here because I remember going past that locked door, so you got to kind of memorize the map a little bit. I'm just hoping they break up the progression enough to where I don't have to remember something from the first time I sat down and played this game, because I am breaking it up into little chunks. Like I was saying, I'm doing like a little bit of scattershot gaming lately, so not really sitting down and playing this in, big long bursts where I'm going to have the game memorized by the time I play it through.
That's a recipe to lose momentum in my experience for sure. That way.
Big time.
Yep.
Big time, which is why I'm gravitating towards these games. Like after playing Record of Lodoss War and then into Cave Story and now into this, it's like these have just been the perfect size, perfect scope.
Oh, yeah.
And this one's even like, it's like a little bit easy, but I'm loving that about it. I'm loving that it's just like, I'm just coasting. I'm just, grabbing the gold. Yeah, I'll die here and there, but like no frustrating setbacks. No, there are save points. So if you do make a little progress and end up dying, you might lose a little bit of headway, but it's nothing where I'm like, again, I've played an hour and I've already cleared the first, like, I'm assuming about quarter of the game or fifth of the game. So
nice.
Looking forward to just keep plowing ahead and hoping to, curious to see if there's some new abilities with the different elements that I unlock at the other temples, or, just curious to see how the rest of the platforming and stuff will shake out. But if you're into the Wonder Boy stuff, I easily recommend this game. Just a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah, I had bought this at some point on sale on Switch probably a million years ago because it says I already downloaded. So I was like,
nice,
which checks out that I would have done that. But just looking at the screenshots again, it just looks so perfectly like a souped up Sega Master System type of game. Like the palette is just perfect that way.
Yeah, it does have that Sega Master System like flavor to it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah,
they nailed that. They nailed that. Yeah, I actually ended up I saw a physical copy of it at the store the other day, which I didn't grab, but it reminded me of like, oh yeah, I forgot about that game.
Yeah.
Which prompted me to pop it in, or not pop it in per se, but fire it up and re-download it or whatever.
That's great.
But I guess speaking of, but I guess sort of speaking of revisiting games.
Yeah.
But also some new games as well.
Oh yeah.
I guess I can kick it over to John here for some of the stuff that you've been playing.
Yeah, revisiting and bouncing around is going to be the theme of the episode.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, I've been revisiting In Other Waters, which I've talked about previously on this podcast, but I think years ago at this point.
Mm-hmm. It's been a while.
And it's a minimalist, hyper stylized, like really like eye-popping, like color palettes and like minimalist design of like a xenobiologist, and like, so you're on another planet in like underwater, and you have this UI that is highly stylized, and it doesn't have a lot of like representational graphics, so it's like a lot of like dots arranged in like the 5 on like a die, like that cross, or a triangle or a circle, and those are representations of like alien life forms and marine life forms moving around, or different fungi or plants that are growing around you. So you don't actually like see like the objects themselves, but these representations of them. And it's a really well told like story throughout that, like showing these different representations to you. But like, you will go out on these expeditions and you have to manage your oxygen and your energy, and you're doing scans. And as you scan more of these life forms, you're building like a logbook, and you have these, as you're doing like these little quests and seeing them at different places, then you are filling them out, and eventually you can actually see representations and sketches of them back at your home base. So that's what I've been spending a lot of my time doing, is just going and doing scans, because that's one of my favorite things to do in a video game.
That's a John mechanic.
Oh yes.
But like going out and like really seeing all of like these really nice layout of like topographic map representations. It's a very like kind of difficult to describe game unless you're looking at it, but like it's such a beautiful game. Like,
it really is. I can echo that sentiment for sure. And I've played just a tiny bit of this, and every time I play it, I'm like, I feel like I got to be in the right mood for this one. It's one of those games where I'm like, I want to get fully absorbed in this experience, because it's like you said, it's so minimalist, but it's like clearly like whatever it's doing it right.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it better than that, but
and it's kind of got like a little, like, clunky is not the correct word for it, but it's like a deliberate, and that's also not kind of like, it's almost like a turn-based metroidvania where you have to like scan.
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
you have to scan the next point that you can move, and then you move, like, you're actually technically playing like an artificial intelligence that's controlling the suit that the like biologist is in. So like you are making these like movements where you're, it's essentially like moving it along like a map, where it's like, all right, well, here's the next point that like it's a turn-based move of like, I'm moving to this next location, and then I can scan around there, or I can interact with like the environment there. And it's a very unique way of controlling and exploring that I really can't think of any other. Like, it feels like a board game, but it doesn't look like a board game. And like, yeah, it's just a very like interesting like way of interacting with the game that I thought was like so unique and so like satisfying to do if you have the patience to do that. Nice. And so I've been playing that game a lot, and this game, the developer is Jump Over the Age, and like I started bouncing around playing other games, and I booted up Citizen Sleeper, which I had no idea was also a game by Jump Over the Age when I booted it up. And I saw like that splash screen right after I was playing in Other Waters. I was like, oh, sick. We're going to keep moving on this train. This is going to be great. And Citizen Sleeper was, I don't know what I was expecting of the game, or if I just picked it up without really knowing it, but it is an homage to like tabletop role-playing games, and like kind of controls, if you've ever played, I think it's got some systems from like Blades in the Dark, but it's not like explicitly from those, but like some of the more indie tabletop role-playing games, not necessarily like the Dungeons and Dragons, but the way that you have a class that you can pick. So, they all have different skills like engineering or endurance or intelligence, but it takes place in this sort of like space capitalist dystopia. And like right from the get-go, it has like mechanics where it's like, all right, you need to eat to live, and you need to like make money in order to eat. And so like right from the start, you are like kind of in survival mode, and because you're in survival mode, you have to make like difficult decisions about, okay, well, what am I going to do to survive? I can do some legal salvage, or I can do some illegal activities maybe, or some more nefarious things in order to just make it through. And like, I think you have the like fiction of the story is you are, and it delivers it in a really interesting way that, it has some mystery about what the world is that you exist in. It doesn't explain it right from the top, but it gives you like little bits and pieces. And I think from what the context I gather, I think like you've maybe sold your body into like your physical body, and you've uploaded your consciousness into another type of body, but that body has planned obsolescence, and because have not paid the subscription for it, it will die because so like you also have to figure out that. And that's the other like tabletop RPG mechanic, is it has drives instead of quests, and those are sort of, they're not like functionally equivalent to quests, but they have like, okay, if you put more time into those drives, then they will kind of not auto-complete, but like will reach a conclusion based on the choices that you've made. And then they also the game also has clocks, which is another like indie tabletop RPG system where if you just do any action, like anything that has a clock will eventually just reach its conclusion. Like despite if you put any like time and effort into that, like the world moves on without you, and you have to either actively participate in it or deal with the consequences of ignoring it. And these are all like really interesting systems that I've seen in these indie like TTRPGs, but I've not actually played because I haven't played them myself. But it was a really good like version of it that like I was really excited to like experience. And also there's like dice rolls, so there's always like chances or like that you're, you know, I've got a good chance that I'm going to like succeed at this, and then I was like, oh well, I failed. Well, great, now I have to deal with the consequences. And like it's just a really well fleshed out world that has like I can tell like right off the bat, like there's so much replayability and like variations on play styles and stories and stuff that you can explore. But like, in a way that like Baldur's Gate kind of feels overwhelming, and just like how like expansive the systems of Dungeons and Dragons are and how expansive the stories are. Having something a little bit smaller scale just like feels a lot more digestible and a lot more like approachable. Whereas like when I was playing like Baldur's Gate 3, I was like, there's a little bit of like choice paralysis where I was like, I don't know if like I've like put too much time and effort into this, or if I'm not doing like playing optimally, where this one I'm like, I don't know, I can totally just fail and see where I end up, and I'd be more than happy to pick this back up like right from the beginning again. It's a really incredible game.
That's cool, yeah.
And it's fantastic.
And making that board game comparison, even to In Other Waters as well, is a great point to make, not having played Citizen Sleeper. But like, I love the idea of like playing a single player board game that you don't have to set up and learn all the rules. Like the game's gonna I know we've talked about this before, but like, just it's gonna sort all the rules out for you, and like you play whatever card or whatever I don't know how the game works as far as like, I don't think it's cards, but you're kind of like making choices and stuff like that. It's just gonna do all the outcomes of that on its own. You don't have to go, oh shoot, I forgot to draw a card 4 turns ago, and that ruins the whole outcome of how this game should have played out. Like I'm always like, that stuff's like lingering in the back of my head when I'm playing a board game. So
like these two games are definitely of a piece of like unorthodox control schemes. Like you don't really even see your character all that much, or like have representations of them outside of like menus. But I don't know. It's like, it's really interesting to like see them as almost like UI, like as player character. And I think that they're like really fascinating ways of like presenting gameplay in that sort of like mode. I don't know. They're really interesting, and I'm glad that I'm like playing both of them. And I'm really glad that this type of game has a space that is, you know, able to do stuff that like other games just can't do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because I again,
John games too.
Very much.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I can't speak to Citizen Sleeper at all, other than like it catching my eye and thinking it looks cool and everything. But In Other Waters, and now I kind of forget the point I was going to make. Like they're kind of like also just like a twist on like a narrative.
Yeah.
You know, just like a visual novel, essentially, you know, like it's just like totally different, but it kind of is just like a story, at least In Other Waters again, that's just kind of playing out that you do have some choices to make, but you do in a visual novel as well, typically.
Right.
You know, and it's just got a just totally different way of presenting it and interacting with it. And I did mostly play this on Xbox initially, but I actually got this, I don't know if it was on Epic or on Amazon or one of the various free ways I've got it on my PC over the years, but I actually fired this up not too long ago just to be like, I wonder how it controls with like a mouse and stuff. And it was pretty interesting to like interact with all the, like essentially like you have your map your topographical map essentially that you're looking at, but then there's all these like dials and interfaces that are kind of scattered around that. And when you're playing with the mouse, you're like actually like clicking on it and rotating it and dragging it around, where like on Xbox, it was just like LB is the button for that.
Yeah.
You know, it was a little less like tactile. So it was slightly more tedious to play it with the mouse, but it was also like slightly more satisfying to like interact with things on like a slightly more tangible and tactile level.
Although I
So
do
that was a cool
love how like
experience.
weird it feels to control like the on controller for In Other Waters, where like you are saying is like, yeah, you have to like hold the like left button, and then you also have to like angle the control stick in the direction that you want to like highlight the next place that you're moving. And like even Citizen Sleeper has kind of that jank too, where it's like, all right, I need to like position the control stick so that I'm highlighting the correct area that I'm selecting, but like it's kind of selecting the wrong one, so I need to rotate the entire space station perspective to get there. But
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, and I can't speak for Citizen Sleeper, but the sound design too in Other Waters, music and just effects and stuff is just stellar.
Both are immaculate. Like, yeah, like not similar vibes, but definitely of like a piece.
Yeah,
Nice.
like presentation is clearly a high priority for this developer, and it shows. But yeah, I'm gonna have to check out Citizen Sleeper and Citizen Sleeper 2 potentially if I like the first one at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we can close things out here with Randall with maybe a little scatter shot of your own here.
Yeah, it's just what we're doing this week.
Heck yeah.
Still doing Twilight Princess HD on Wii U.
Heck yeah.
My daughter and I are up to about, I think we're at like 13 hours
Nice.
or so.
Dang.
We have defeated the Goron Mines, the second kind of major dungeon, and we did so pretty swiftly. Like we did it in like one sitting, which is definitely not how the first one went for us.
Yeah.
So that felt
Okay.
really good to just kind of like rip through that, as you know, things are falling in place and just kind of super comfortable with the control and what's being asked of you in that Zelda game, and. Like you get the boots that's like the magnetic boots effectively, and most of that dungeon revolves around navigating with that. But I don't even remember if I made it this far and playing on Wii U or not, to be honest. But I just ripped through it this go around.
Nice.
And it just felt really good to go through. And in the bosses, I don't know if it's spoilers. I guess the game is tremendously old at this point. But
You're
like,
safe with me.
yeah, the boss is like one of them. The mid boss is kind of difficult to get like to figure out at first, but it's like a sumo fight sort of thing, basically. And he's got all kinds of this huge Goron on this disc that's very like weighted, where you know if you're on the edge of this floating disc, the whole thing starts tilting in that direction with your weight, and with the weight of the boss. And you know the idea is basically to throw him off, you know, a la the King Bob-omb from Mario 64 or something, like throw him off the top plateau kind of thing into the whatever.
Yeah.
But it was easier said than done to wrap my head around that at first. I was like, oh shoot, I'm gonna die here if I don't figure out exactly what's going on.
Same, and I've beaten this game twice, and I was like, good God, have I gotten worse at this game?
Yeah, it's like I'm not trying to keep on the magnetic boots the whole time because it makes you so heavy and slow.
I know,
but if you don't, then you can't. You don't have enough like oomph to do the sumo move on the guy. So you kind of have to really be good about hot swapping. You attack him so he's vulnerable, so then you can potentially try and do your thing to throw him off the side. And you might have to do it a couple of times to get him close enough, like the Bob-omb or, Bowser sort of thing. But, got through that, ultimately had a couple of, had some whatever Lon milk or whatever to heal up appropriately, and continue on. The final boss of that, it was just way easier, at least for me, for whatever reason, of that dungeon. And maybe it's just because it doesn't hurt that like I had mentioned last time, with the Wii U version, you get the gyro controls going with things like bow and arrow, which is what you also kind of get around that same time. And man, that's you can be pretty swift about it with that as an aiming option,
Okay.
So just really still very, very, very much enjoying time with that. And my daughter would be like, hey, can we play Zelda? I'm like, sorry, honey, like it's kind of late tonight, but for sure. So she's like super duper into seeing it through, and we're already, on to the third, Twilight shard thing. So, just really burning through on this game here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. My next question was going to be like, is she still, is into it as before? So
I mean, sounds
like that's the
she's
case.
The one asking for it to be played. I'm trying to like it. Obviously, I'm having a blast too, but I'm trying to keep it open ended and like, yeah, what do you want to do or whatever? It's Saturday morning. You want it's Zelda. Okay, sounds good.
Nice.
Heck yeah.
It's like we could play Yoshi or we could build this other thing if you want. It's like Zelda. All right, cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then on the other side, I'm also trying to find like a main game that I'm playing otherwise at the nighttime, while like, Tina knits or whatever else, and as we have, like we talked about before we started recording, have streamlined down streaming services from evil corporations and like, let's delve into the stuff that we have access to kind of thing. One thing I still do have access to through practically the end of the year is Game Pass on Xbox. So still trying to leverage that as much as I can. And so I tried to boot some stuff. This I think is on Game Pass, but I had bought it on some super sale because it always went on sale historically, at least. Witcher 3, I'd gave that a launch.
Nice.
And that's one that DJ had talked about extensively on this podcast.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Many, many years ago. And extolled things like Gwent and stuff like that. I'm like, ooh, yeah, I could see myself getting into like a sicko card game inside of a bigger game. That seems like the sort of thing that I would do. But not only did I feel like an idiot playing Gwent because there's like a couple of main things like, the other guy did this and this, and you lost this round. I'm like, wait, I did what did he do? I don't understand what he activated that I couldn't do, or what did I miss in my action abilities? And it didn't quite click with me. But again, I feel like the main Witcher character is supposed to be like a big dumb anyway, so why would he be good at that sort of strategic
card game?
Yeah, come on, man.
Did you ever play shogi in Yakuza or
I
Mahjong?
tried, but I tried shogi, and they're like, oh yeah, shogi's easy. It's blah blah blah. And they're like, I'm not in a position to absorb this right now. I backed out, but I need to go back to that.
A similar thing is like,
successfully.
Why is Kiryu good at shogi? This is in fiction. It makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Same deal. Exact same deal. Yes. Like, there's no chance that this himbo is going to be any good at any of this stuff. Come on. What are we doing?
Not to sidetrack us here too, but back to a couple weeks ago when I was talking about Lodos War, there's like a weird game in that. There's like some character you can like talk to him, like some side character, and he like, hey, it's like pages and pages of these rules. It's some kind of cardboard game thing, and I was just like, this is way over. It's like a whole game in and of itself.
That's pretty cool. That's crazy, in there, though. I wouldn't expect it even in a game like that necessarily.
Especially a short little metroidvania.
Yeah,
like that. Yeah. But sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack there. But I do love when there's like a full like game within a game.
The Zachtronics solitaire collection of every solitaire game that they made up for all of their other games.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's wonderful. Yes, it's always amazing. Mini games and games as a concept will not ever be not amazing. It's just always fun to encounter that. But this one, I just couldn't get to click with me in general. I'd say like Witcher 3, and it's like the Game of the Year edition. And I think that might have been part of the problem. Like they're throwing a lot of shit at me that I'm like, I don't have the context for. And there's like so many items and options, and I'm like, I'm not exactly sure what it is that I'm really meant to be doing in like the main campaign,
right?
And and then it just wasn't clicking with me enough. And I'm like, there's a lot of other stuff here. If it's not clicking with me and it's already been like an hour, maybe it's time to flip to something else. And so I did, even though I try to like have stick, with itness about these things a little bit more than I used to. I flipped over to Cyberpunk, which had also just relatively recently been on Game Pass. And I'm like, okay, this is like another big budgety thing that should work nice on this Xbox. Let's give that a go.
Also CD Projekt Red.
Also CD Projekt Red. And unfortunately, I also was like, I don't know if this is really doing it for me either. This is like, it feels a little bro-y to me, and like I'm just like, I didn't need to just shooty at first. I could have used a little bit of nuance here on this side of the fence, and I'm not sure that I was like, I'm not gonna back out of this right after I backed out of the last thing, and then I did. I'm like, okay, I'm done with this for a second too. And then I started up Death Stranding, which is
nice.
Where I was like, I should have just started with this.
Heck yeah.
And I kind of thought about that in the first place. Like, hearing John talk about this and like knowing it was available to play, I'm like, I should have, just started this before.
Yeah, you mentioned that last time. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then I started playing Death Stranding, and the default setting it sets you at is hard. And I'm like, okay, I guess, I've been playing more games recently. I'm not like the world's greatest game player, but I'm like, if it wants to start me there as what it considers a default, okay, I'll see what happens. And at first it was okay. And there's a lot of exposition, but this is from the man that made Metal Gear Solid. So of course there is, we're going to say a lot of words and that's fine. And it's weird, and that's great. I knew it was going to be weird. I have no issue with that. With our BB and everything else, but I'm into it. I'll say that much. But also, once I've gotten past what I consider like the tutorial things, I immediately started just getting my ass beat by this game.
Yep.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I was getting my ass beat by this game. Like, I'm like, is it just like, I thought, like, at one time I tried to, do my usual thing. I was like, oh, it's like open world. I can relatively walk wherever I want. I was like, oh, now all the goo monsters are coming out and I'm fucked because I'm now nowhere close to where I need to be getting.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that is the exact point when I turned down the difficulty. I was like, nope, absolutely not.
Yeah, no, you were correct to do that, because then like I managed to survive and like shake the goo monsters off of me enough and grab my stuff to get like, and it wasn't too damaged at the end of it to do that. But then like the next mission after that, I'm like, all right, let's make sure we're like staying on top of this as much as we can, and like just take the route, and let's even run when we have a chance, even though that could topple us over and damage our shit. But then like the goo monsters came out, and I'm like, I think I'm only like a little over halfway through. What am I supposed to do with this? Like, is this the way this is designed? Holy shit. Like and I'm terrible at placing ladders and stuff, which is another thing you can do. I'm like, I place a ladder and I go up to the top of the ladder and it's not connected to anything. Like, well, I probably shouldn't walk off the end of that. That would be bad. So then, I also am at a point where I'm like, when I boot, because I'm definitely going to play more Death Stranding. I like it. But I definitely need to notch that difficulty slider down a little bit for myself, because woof. Yeah. Got my ass beat. Like, and I like the last time, because I was only halfway through and it was like the fourth mission or whatever, and the goo monsters took me to like their goo hell or whatever. And I'm like, well, I am like too tired and like too out of it so it's stuck there right now in an idle state on the Xbox to see if I can fight my way out of goo hell or not. I think I'm probably dead, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I've, anytime that like I get into a BT section where it's just like the second that I get caught, I'm like, let's reload. Let's do this over. There's no coming back from this. Like,
oh no. Yeah.
I'm not a good stealth guy. I'm not good at not getting detected. And like that does give you more options the more you play. Like they keep adding more systems to it. Good. And they, have different ways that you can navigate those sections. But those are still the sections that I've done the least of, just because I'm like, I'm bad at those. Like, I will do anything else. I will literally rebuild entire like swaths of infrastructure in America before I will go into a stealth section.
Which is totally fair. Yeah, I'm also just awful at stealth in any stealth game. It's just immediately like, oh, they spotted me. Time to turn into a maniac that kills everyone that encounters me now. Like, if as best I can. That's just always how it goes in games.
Yeah.
Even like preparing for those sections where I'm like, at the point where I'm at now, I'm like, all right, I am only going to take one package. I am going to take 4 like sets of grenades so that I am so over like stocked with like ways that I can fight back. And then midway through it, I'll still just be like panicking, and I was like, fine, we're just running. I'm not going to try to like hide anymore. I'm just sprinting through the section, and then I lose. And it's like, what did you expect?
And then you fall over on some random boulder. Although, like, John, I think you had said before that, like, Death Stranding had the Lonely Mountains downhill sort of feel, right? Yeah. And I was like, oh, fuck, I totally get it. Yeah. It does. It's like, and it's so unique in what they made there that way, and how you traverse, and like how intentional you have to traverse. It just like feels really good, and like the risk reward of throwing even more shit on your back when you find it, and like, and I'm an idiot, so I'm gonna take everything that I find, and I'm gonna be way overweight, get myself in a lot of trouble, and then get attacked by goo monsters. But it's a fun time.
Hell yeah.
It's like me trying to carry in my groceries. And I'm like, I can carry in all these bags, and like trying to close my trunk. And it's like, I could have, in the time that it took me trying to like strap all these bags to my arm, I could have made 3 trips into my apartment back and forth and done this with ease. But instead, I'm like, I got to do it in one trip.
As they cut into your fingers.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Cutting off circulation on my arm.
Yes.
But I love that, though, because like I had no idea. I think I said this when John talked about it, too. But like, really, I still kind of am in the dark about this game to a degree. I know about it, but like, tried to like avoid stuff because like I want to play it someday and don't want to, want to go in somewhat blind. But like, I just didn't really picture it being difficult. And as much as I don't gravitate towards difficulty these days in games, like I'm compelled by that because I didn't think that was going to be the case with this game. So I'm just like, oh, interesting. That's not what I expected to hear about.
I would consider it difficult. I'm granted I did select hard because that's what it defaulted me to. But
no, I mean, that's what I would do too. Yeah, for sure.
I would say it's difficult, certainly. And I'm just like still getting the hang of it. Although I feel like I'm pretty good with the controls where my man's like, I'm overloaded with my backpack. He's, shit. And it's like he starts falling over and it's like, no, right. And you got to try to like balance yourself back and forth and hold on to the pack. And
balancing a Tony Hawk grind on the rail for too long.
Although maybe even a little bit more intense than that, to be honest, in what they ask of you to do based on the terrain.
There's a comfort level that I've reached with it now where I'm like, all right, is this a section that I don't have to hold like the left and right triggers like to like steady myself and like the second that I like run into like an incline, I immediately like switch into that version where I'm like, all right, now I'm bracing myself, but I'm also sprinting, or like it's like, okay, now I need to disengage sprinting, but still brace myself, or like there's a fun layer of like, like controlling a human body like a vehicle that like this game just feels so good.
It does,
some quap DNA.
Yes,
somehow.
And like there'd be like these sections too where I'm like, I'm starting to like panic a little bit, and I know I need to get to wherever I'm going, before the goo monsters get me. But there's like rivers and like these like branching rivers, and I've got to cross. I've got a fjord. I've got to get to the other goddamn side of this river. So I'm just beelining to wherever I can. And Tina's like, no, why don't you go over here where it's like a shorter distance to get across the river? Like, no. I'm gonna walk here and get swept away by the current because I didn't have enough endurance, and now I'm drastically trying to grab at all of my shit to get all of my packages as they like strewn off of my back because I'm now going down the river myself. Yeah, and also trying to save myself from going over the waterfall.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
you guys have definitely sold me on like I've had my eye on like definitely wanting to get the PS5 version of this eventually, but like I definitely am going to make that happen when I see it for a
it's so
reasonable
unique.
price.
I would recommend it just because it's so unique.
And like
Yeah.
what I've been doing, like I've been playing the game a lot too, but like I haven't really been advancing the plot. All I've been doing is taking like a function that once you start like, you know, having the internet capabilities of the game is like, I've just been going to places and delivering other people's lost packages to like for them. And like, you don't really get that much of a reward in the moment for that. But like, every once in a while, like I'll log in and I'm like, I get to a like delivery point and I was like, oh, someone delivered a lost package for me. And then I get to like complete that thing. It's like, it's just a nice little like asynchronous like multiplayer thing where it's like, yeah, we're all playing this game together and it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to that degree too, people can leave like ladders and ways to traverse across sections, and that like certainly helped the difficulty curve for me on those first like couple of missions, especially.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
but then I love going to a new area where like you aren't connected to the internet, so you can't. All you have is just yourself and going through the treacherous terrain, and then you link it up, and then you get to see where everyone else has gone and like what paths they've taken.
I haven't seen that yet. That's cool.
Oh, it's great.
That's sweet.
Yeah,
I love
Heck
that.
yeah.
Good game.
It is. Yeah, I've only put maybe an hour and a half into it so far, but I agree. It's a great game. Yeah.
Heck yeah. I'm curious to hear more about that if you end up sinking some more time into that one, or from John, or
I will,
or possibly from me if I end up getting around to it at some point. But
yeah,
I don't know. Anything else we want to gab about tonight, guys, before we wrap things up for the evening?
Nah, I don't think so.
Nice. Well, yeah, as always, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com. We're back in action over there, and everywhere else, just look up Pursuing Pixels if you're looking for something. And otherwise, I don't know what I was going to say after that. So otherwise, hope you have a great evening. And I don't know. I even know what I'm saying right now. We're at pursuingpixels.com. You can find us on the internet. And until next week, we'll catch you then, and take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good Lord. I don't know what I truly was like, what am I saying? I said otherwise. And then like after that, I was like, what was I going to say? I don't know.
I love like the refusal to have like a scripted sign off and
Me
to
too.
just wing
It's
it
really good.
for
The
hundreds of
brain farts.
episodes over years. It's like it rules.
The brain
It is.
farts.
It's good. It's very good.
Because it's mostly the same every time. But
Right.
yeah, it's like every now and then it just like, all it takes is like one word to trip you up, and then you're just like, wait, that came out kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just like, I'll never forget the one guy that was like first showing me how to like take pictures and like x-rays and stuff at work. He's like, I kind of just have my like spiel. So he's like, if anybody ever asks me like a question in the middle of it, he's like, I'm fucked. He's like, cause I'm like, I just like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
yeah.